Congressman Gohmert, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, you are the Vice Chairman of the Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security. Your reaction to this horrific news that we're reporting this morning, and how do you stop something like this?
Well, John Adams said it clearly back in 1796 as our second president. Our Constitution was intended for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the governing of any other. And we've got to get back to teaching right and wrong. But right now, our hearts and prayers do go out to the family members and those who experienced this horrific shooting. And the deputy that just, I mean, I know hundreds, I've worked with hundreds of law enforcement, and that it's still just, I tear up when I think about guys that run to the sound of the guns instead of running the other direction.
That's
real
right.
Heroes. And we heard the sheriff say we don't know if there's terrorism. Well, we know that there was terrorism. Somebody comes in with smoke bombs and wanting to shoot multiple people. Clearly that person intended to terrorize. But of course, we know terrorism is a euphemism for radical Islam. And the sheriff, what he was really saying is, we don't know if it was radical Islam, like the shooting at the bar in Orlando.
Right.
But that is yet to be determined. But
Yes.
when you wear black, you're bringing smoke grenades. Clearly, it was premeditated murder. And it's unfortunate that we don't have the chance to actually put him to death. I don't know that would have happened in California,
right.
but right now, for all the victims, there is just so much shock and so much hurting, and
Yeah.
I've seen enough of it in my life. It never gets easier.
No, it doesn't, and it's
easier.
really hard to watch the witnesses, very tearful, talking about what they saw. It's just an incredible story, and we will find the motive and bring it to our viewers. I want to switch gears and ask you about the divided Congress, sir, because Democrats retook the House, obviously, or they're retaking the House. Republicans are gearing up for an anticipated some hurdles on issues from taxes to trade. The president and House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi both spoke out yesterday on plans for bipartisanship. Listen to this. I got to get your reaction.
I give her a great deal of credit for what she's done and what she's accomplished. Hopefully we can all work together next year to continue delivering for the American people.
We as Democrats are here to strengthen the institution in which we serve and not to have it be a rubber stamp for President Trump. We believe that we have a responsibility to seek common ground where we can. Where we cannot, we must stand our ground.
I know there was a lot of planning yesterday, Congressman, with the Republicans, party leaders, trying to map this course for the divided Congress. How is this going to look with now the Democrats in the majority in the House?
Well, it actually, Maria, it's been a divided Congress for the last nearly 2 years. It's just that in the past 2 years, it's been divided between a majority of the Republicans in the House and what we wanted to do to build a wall where it was needed, to secure the border, to avoid amnesties, those kind of things. That was what the majority of Republicans wanted to do. And then the division was with our own leadership that we're not going to help the president accomplish his major promises that got him elected president. Right. So this time now it'll be divided come January between political parties. But I'm delighted to hear Nancy Pelosi talk in those terms. It beats the heck out of the Democrat chairman over energy and commerce that handled the Obamacare, when Republicans were saying, look, let's work together on dealing with pre-existing conditions and taking care of people through age 26. I was okay going 30 or 40 if you're living with your parents. But the chairman said, we don't need we don't want Republican input, and we don't need Republican votes. And so it's really nice to hear Nancy Pelosi talking in these terms. We'll see how long that lasts.
All right, let me turn to Jeff Sessions. Some people are saying, look, this is right here one of the first things that the Democrats are going to be complaining about, and they are. The president fired the U.S. Attorney General, replacing him with Sessions' Chief of Staff, Matthew Whitaker, yesterday. A permanent replacement expected to be nominated at a later date. What's your reaction to this? Obviously, no surprise. We were all expecting Jeff Sessions to resign. right after the midterm elections. But does this create a problem for the president, given we've already heard from the Democrats saying somebody else is overseeing the Mueller probe, we don't like it?
Well, the Democrats ought to love it because they should have seen that this was coming. And I love Jeff Sessions. He's a fine, decent, moral, ethical man, and I think he was a little naive in not appreciating the people that worked for Rosenstein that wanted to diminish him in the president's eyes and gave him bad advice, including to recuse himself. He relied too heavily on the advice of people he called career, but I would say were Democrat operatives, just been there a while. But I was a little surprised. Matthew Whitaker is a great guy. He's a wonderful man. But Democrats ought to be loving Matt because his job as chief of staff to Jeff Sessions was to look out for Jeff Sessions, and he did not keep him away from the bad advice of people that wanted to destroy Jeff. And so they ought to love the fact that Matt's been raised. He didn't do a good job protecting his boss, Jeff. From the radicals, and I'm not talking radical Islamists, I'm just talking radical Democrats that loved Sally Yates, loved Obama, hated Trump. He should have protected Jeff better from bad advice, and now he's going to be acting AG, and so they ought to be loving it.
So, I mean, agenda item number one will likely be, okay, Robert Mueller, let's see what you have. Where are we on this? Where do you think we are in the Robert Mueller probe? How will Matthew Whitaker deal with this differently? And, I mean, in terms of the investigations going on in your chamber into the DOJ, the FBI, and that cabal of people who tried to stop Donald Trump, where are those investigations? Do they go away at this point?
No, absolutely not. We need to conclude them. And even though in January, the former speaker, the current speaker, his advice to us was, when there's no drama, we win. When there's no drama, we win. That's ridiculous. That's coming from somebody that wants to avoid a fight, apparently, because what we see is, and President Trump has shown it, when we fight, there's some drama, but we win. And so
well,
our
they're
leadership...
going to be fighting with the president, though, Congressman. I mean, we've heard from Jerry Nadler, we've heard from, Elijah Cummings, who are going to be and Adam Schiff, who are going to be the leaders of, the chairman of some important committees there. So what is the president going to do with all of these investigations that are going to pile up once the new Congress gets in session?
I heard someone say he's going to need to add more lawyers to the White House, and I think he's right about that because he's going to be overwhelmed with discovery requests and subpoenas.
So does anything get done for the American people legislatively, sir?
I sure hope so, because I hope the Democrats don't make the mistake of hurting Americans like they did with Obamacare, destroying seniors' health care, removing $716
well, what about immigration?
billion
What about immigration, Congressman? You've got a caravan crisis right now. Thousands of troops are deployed at the border as we speak. The migrant caravan continues moving northbound from Mexico.
Now, the president's going to protect the country. He made that very clear when I was talking to him about it in Houston. He is going to protect the country. He doesn't need Congress to do that.
But don't you need the Democrats' help? They're now in charge of, they're in the majority in the House. I mean, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell weighed in on the future plans for the border wall funding yesterday. Here's what he said. I got to get your reaction.
We're certainly going to try to help the president achieve what he'd like to do with regard to the wall and border security. And that'll obviously have to be done on some kind of bipartisan, some kind of bipartisan discussion.
So I go back to the first question. I mean, how is this going to work? Will you see bipartisan work together? You represent the people of Texas. Your take on this?
Well, we haven't seen any bipartisanship really at work here, even to the point that they would destroy an honorable man like Kavanaugh. So, but hopefully there'll be a change of heart. That's hope that springs eternal in the human breast, and with God all things are possible, but we just haven't seen any evidence that that's what they really want to do. But let's face it, I love hearing Mitch McConnell say we're going to help the president with the wall, because I know the House leadership sure hasn't done that for the last nearly 2 years. So we've got a little window here before we lose it, and actually if we took a step, we could pass funding for the wall without having to have cloture in the Senate. And I understand we're going to hopefully work on that.
All right, we'll be watching. Congressman, it's good to see you as always. Thanks so much, sir.
Great to see you. Thanks.
Louie Gohmert joining us there. Breaking news overnight, 12